Did you know Brandon Sanderson tried to create his own Sanderson cinematic universe? Wow, he was actually really pushing for this film franchise hard after his Kickstarter made a lot of money, and it seems to have almost materialized, at least in his mind, and then evaporated in the last couple of years. There's a lot of reasons why, but we'll get into the global landscape and what's actually happening here in just a moment, because this is a very fascinating story, and perhaps he designed his Cosmere universe to be a film franchise from the get-go. I don't know if that's the case, but I definitely don't even think of my books as films. I write books for being books. And so this is an author channel for fantasy that you will absolutely love. Let's get into the real fantasy news, my friends. Hit the like and subscribe button here and join us as we talk about all things going on in the culture. My name's John Delarose. I am a #1 best-selling author of For Steam and Country, which is the adventures of Baron von Monocle. This is a 6-book series, a beautiful series which you'll love, about an airship crew that adventures, they quest, they fight monsters, they're saving their kingdom from foreign threats as a war breaks out. It's a lot of fun as this series develops, and it is meant just for books. It's a lot of fun here. I did toy with a comic book adaptation of it, but we'll see what happens on that level. Please check it out in the description below. It is a beautiful series you're absolutely going to love. If you have Audible credits, the whole series is available on audio as well. So grab this today. Thank you guys so much for supporting our work and the channel. Really appreciate you for being here. In 2022, Brandon Sanderson announced he was buying the movie rights to his books to try to make a connected universe similar to the MCU, but it appears that the project stalled out. In recent interviews, he's admitted that a Cosmere-connected universe would be a detriment to movie studios at this point. If you don't know, Brandon Sanderson's quickly become one of, if not the biggest real fantasy authors in the world, and I say real fantasy because I put a asterisk beside the Rebecca Yarros or Sarah J. Maas stuff. That's not real fantasy, in my opinion. It's a different genre. They call it romantasy, which is just cluttering up fantasy shelves in bookstores at this point. Don't even go to bookstores, honestly. His rise to stardom accelerated after his Kickstarter with 4 secret novels raised millions on the platforms, showing that fans were very interested in his work. Now, this is what happened. As he became very successful, Sanderson changed his stance on LGBTQ propaganda. Originally, he claimed he would never put such work into his fiction because of his religion. In subsequent years, he pushed hard for representation in his books, which has created a backlash among his conservative fan base who enjoyed his once clean fiction. Now, Brandon Sanderson, when he came up and kind of came out of nowhere because of the whole Robert Jordan situation, always said he was not going to put this into his books. He said that he didn't want to support that. He's a Mormon. As he started getting bigger, getting closer with Tor books, he then changed his stance, saying, "Oh, well, we should allow civil unions so these people can see each other in the hospitals." Of course, that's a lie that was propagated by the mainstream media, that the people were being kept out of hospitals and the like to try to garner sympathy for this. Fast forward 10 years later, and you're trying to get shoved, off of a cliff of LGBTQ content everywhere. Every TV show has to have a gay character. They promote it. The gay character's smarter and better and more moral than everybody else. They're doing the same things with transgender characters now. It's absolutely crazy. Now, Brandon Sanderson slowly integrated this stuff into his books. When he got big with Tor books, doing his own epic fantasy with Way of Kings, he actually put just like a little one-off like throwaway line in there. I haven't read it in 10 years, but it was like, and he looked at men the way that other men looked at women. It was really, really ham-fisted and very obviously thrown in there like afterwards editorial-wise, just to be like, look, there's LGBTQ representation. Well, he went even further because that's not enough for this mob at this point. And in his most recent release, which he's been writing over the last couple of years, which, again, interesting timing on all this, and it might explain everything, he actually put full-on gay romance into it, and it's a disaster. Tons of modernisms. It looks like his writing has gone way downhill as he's embraced this agenda and gotten lazier, like a lot of Hollywood elites out there. You embrace the agenda, they help you sell better. You don't have to work as hard, right? That seems to be the vicious cycle that goes on here. Now, if he was trying to make a cinematic universe and try to sell his books into movies and things like that, and wanted to be propped up on that level, which is the next thing, it would explain a lot as to why his stance had so rapidly changed into such an aggressive left-wing tactic, where he's trying to, of course, manipulate his audience via his fiction work at this point. This is what they demand. This is what Hollywood does, right? If you think about the worst of it, it's a joke on how like Netflix and Disney like puts all this stuff into their films and ham-fists it in there. So he might have done this intentionally to be like, guys, I'll play ball, make movies of my stuff. I don't know his motivations for real. I'm just speculating on this stuff, guys, but it does explain a lot because, like, why would somebody who's, like, got a big enough of a fan base by yourself to, like, be able to do your own Kickstarters and the like, and actually make your own books like this without any outside help or anything like that, who's a Mormon who, like, is from Utah, why would they go forward and do this and really sell out and sell out his religion because of this? Well, Hollywood does that, right? This is the classic ticket-taking, sell your soul sort of situation. It makes a lot of sense if that's the case here. So this is what happened when he was talking about cinematic universes. At the beginning of it, he said that he was working on it. This is an interview he gave, and he said, "We already have the team. We are really excited. We'll just do a buyout. We're so confident we're going to make it. We're buying the rights right now, and our goal would be to be in production to 6 to 8 months. That's what's happening to me now." Now, this is pretty interesting. Again, he had his giant Kickstarter with, a lot of millions propped up right here. This is a great time to buy your rights and get this sort of thing going. Now, if he was just going to do it himself, it was going to be something interesting. But even with that kind of money, you really can't just make these giant sweeping fantasy films all by yourself, right? You'd still need an investment group. You still need teams involved that are much bigger on this level to do this. So I think he got exuberant with the Kickstarter, like thought he had a lot going, thought he could maybe do it himself. Maybe he could back away from all this weird politics stuff to try to get things done. But maybe it didn't work, and that's why he was trying to then in the 2024 release try to get things going on the Hollywood level to try to get interest from that crew. He says, "These are not sure things. Nothing is a sure thing in Hollywood. But I would be surprised if we weren't on set doing things this time next year. I would be shocked if we aren't," he said in 2022. Now, he kind of gave a theory as to what's going on, as you could kind of tell what he was talking about in his interviews here. And he also said that there's some things going on with the MCU, right? And so if you look at his interviews, he says, "I think it's because people put the cart before the horse when talking about grand sweeping interconnected movies." Now, if you look at the sort of landscape change between 2022 and now, the MCU in 2022 was hailed as like this like amazing interconnected universe. Everybody loved it. The Avengers, all this stuff. People were not all the way fed up with it yet. Yes, I mean, we'd had a couple of bad films from the pandemic, and of course Captain Marvel leading up before that, which was really the breaking point of where people kind of toppled on this sort of thing. But if you look at what it was, people still looked at the Marvel Universe as something that was like, wow, this is a crazy thing that they really pulled off really, really well. I hope they keep pulling it off at this point. Only in recent years, the last couple of years, has that all changed because of the terrible Disney Plus programming that was out there that, of course, pushed identity politics on everybody and the like. The Marvels movie, which was a complete disaster. Don't forget Eternals, which also pushed the LGBTQ agenda. They started focusing on agenda, and how did I forget Black Captain America? Oh my gosh, the craziest move of them all. They totally torched their brand just to put feminism, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ crap all at the forefront of all this stuff. And when they did that, they screwed up their entire universe. They screwed up all their little interconnected plans, and they didn't make any stories that actually stood on their own. None of these Disney Plus shows were watchable by themselves if you didn't already know what was going on. It was a lot of crazy stuff. Sanderson kind of talked about it. He says the backlash, in my opinion, there's only one group that's done it right, and that's been the MCU. How do you do it right? You make sure the story you're telling is fantastic. You build organically, and even then, you have to plan from that. They're having the same trouble I had with Way of Kings Prime. Now, Way of Kings Prime was the original novel that he was going to put in for the Stormlight Archive. It's a completely different plot than he actually did for the regular Way of Kings release out there. He actually released it, and you can actually find it. You can go read the first draft version that he had, and that I think added too many interconnected weird elements to it that made it a difficult story on the fantasy level. Now, if you look at his Stormlight Archive, he didn't stick the landing anyway. It was still too clustery of a story to work, and it didn't work out. Sometimes these things hit, sometimes they miss. When you got that many words, you got a big miss. And I think that's what's went on. So Brandon Sanderson's kind of clout with Hollywood over the last couple of years has fallen. The whole fascination with Marvel movies and the like has also fallen. All of this stuff, movie studios are now not like, ooh, I want to do an interconnected thing. They're like, maybe we should try one thing, right? And it doesn't work anymore. So Sanderson continued in a different interview. He said, "I'm fully aware I'm part of one of these. These connected universes are potential houses of cards. That's exactly what he's got here. Because one of the problems is I've been very aware of in the Cosmere that I want to be very careful about is when people just stop following, getting back into it is really hard. For instance, if you skip 5 James Bond movies, then you decide to see one, you're not lost. You don't have a problem. But if you skip 5 MCU movies, you're not going to see the new Avengers movie, which is kind of their linchpin where they expect to make their money back, having spent a lot of money setting up these characters. That could be a house of cards. That's it. And he's got a house of cards, and the movie studios knew this. And so here's what happened on the level. He actually had a Mistborn movie in development. He actually had the Stormlight Archives and Elantris in development as well. This was going to be an interconnected sort of thing that was happening right there. And now he's announced that Mistborn is, quote, back to square one. In fact, it's gone. The whole deal with the 2022 interview saying that it was going to be in production in 6 to 8 months is completely out of things at this point. And this is what he's got. He says it got offers of development deals from studios, but no production deal. And that's exactly what happens. Like, development's one thing, scripting's one thing. Once it goes into, like, it doesn't mean it's going to go into production or anything like that. And I think Brandon got very exuberant because of the MCU, and he thought he could sell it because of his brand and the like. And Hollywood got cold feet for a couple of reasons. One, I think they were waiting to see if he could stick the landing with this Stormlight Archive, and obviously, like, the fan reaction didn't work on that level. And then second, the MCU's really fallen apart for the exact same reasons Brandon Sanderson's fallen apart. Identity politics stuff shoehorned into the books and shoehorned into the movies have just made people tepid on this sort of thing. Nobody wants to follow something that's going to go in that direction whatsoever. He said, the partners I had didn't want to go back to the script after all the work they did, which means it's completely dead and gone for the Mistborn movie at this point. So Brandon Sanderson was almost there. He did almost have his whole cinematic universe with the Cosmere going on, but it all fell apart very, very quickly. It's gone now. He's not got that in development whatsoever, and it's interesting how he had that exuberance, had that hubris going on because of what the MCU is doing. Thought he could follow in their footsteps. In fact, he tried really too hard to follow in Disney's footsteps. I really think at this point, this pivot to the LGBTQ agenda and the political stuff that he's doing is to try to align himself with Hollywood, to try to say, I'm one of you guys. It really makes a lot of sense on that level. And it didn't work out because, honestly, he missed that boat because the fan bases there at this point are rejecting that kind of content left and right. And that is what's going on in the fantasy news, my friends. Please hit the like and subscribe button. What do you think about this? Do you think he'll eventually get a Cosmere cinematic universe going? Leave a comment down below. Hit the like and subscribe button. And please check out my beautiful fantasy series, guys. It starts with For Steam and Country. It's in the description below. Available on ebook, print, and audio for your convenience.